Hello and welcome to this episode of What's Good Mzansi with me, your host, Jared Petzer. Today we are joined by Dana and Blue. They represent a company called D4U, which is a technology partner of hashtag ImStaying, the MPC. We're going to be just giving a little bit of detail in terms of what it is that their company actually does and a little bit of insight in terms of what this technology is and the purpose that it serves. How are you going, guys?
Good to you, bud.
Very well on you, Jared.
Fantastic, fantastic. Cool. Dana, tell us a little bit more about D4U and the principles behind the business.
Yeah, sure, Jared. So Design for You was sort of established, I think, 2012. And the idea was really to make use of industry experts to provide sort of niche services to specific opportunities. And I think a lot of the opportunities we focused on initially was very much focused around some of the challenges we face in this country. So we've been involved in projects for job creation, entrepreneurship, setting up the sale of virtual products like airtime, etc., as well, in stations for guys running it, that was previously unemployed, creating some job opportunities for them. And myself and Blue, we've been involved in the telecoms industry, each of us for more than 20 years. So we understand the industry quite well. We understand the opportunities that's there. But we wanted to try and use a lot of that opportunities and know-how, like we said, to create some niche opportunities. And I think that's one of the exciting things about ImStaying and what we're talking to you guys about is how can we use this technology, enable this technology to really do something different and to do some real good into this country. And I think that's what our focus is, and that's really what we're excited about.
Fantastic. So, we sort of connected, I think it was in the latter part of 2019, if I'm not mistaken, it was around that time. And I think it was just for us, it was amazing to see the sort of stuff that we could do in terms of technology and how the technology can help people. Can you just give us a few ideas in terms of how this technology is supposed to help? Because there's a number of segments, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm going to just give you a high-level intro, and then I'm going to hand over to Blue to get into the exciting technical stuff. So my role is normally, I refer to it almost as a geek whisperer. So I take business opportunities and ideas, and I try and model it and design it, and then give it to the brainy guys like Blue and his team to go and develop accordingly. So yeah, we've basically engaged with ImStaying on the idea that we want to use tech, and we want to use specifically a mobile app to really take ImStaying and the platform to the next level and really get people engaged and to help them enable or use their technology to enable some of the good work that we all want to do. Because I think a lot of the challenges that we face very often is that you want to commit some time, effort, or money to a good cause, but I think the question is always, how do I get started? And that's really what we envisage with the platform. Is to really help people to go about it very easily and simply. If you look at how technology evolved, from booking accommodation, booking flights, travel, watching movies, everything else, it's become so easy and so simple through the use of technology. And we want to use those same principles to say, well, how do we use these technology and principles to really enable people to do good? And I think, yeah, that's really what we envisage to do. And I think Blue can give us a little bit more insight into some of the tech that is available that we're using, and also some insight of what's potentially coming down the line pretty soon.
Okay, so as Dana rightfully said, he is the geek whisperer or nerd wrangler. So I'll pretend to be the geek/nerd in this picture. The technology has evolved to such an extent over the last 20 years, and all of this was predicted. I remember speaking at a conference in 2008 where people were talking about convergence, and at that time convergence had a whole bunch of meanings, and what they were referring to was convergence within very particular sectors of of technology. But as we've seen, things have essentially converged towards this mobile type of interface, and everybody was predicting that mobile would become the next screen that everybody was looking at. It was first the big screen, then the TV screen, and now it's the cell phone screen. And everybody's looking at these things, and everybody expects the answers to come from this mobile device. And to a certain extent, this is no longer a technology problem. The technology has been around for quite some time. Solutions are actually where the challenge sits, and it's finding solutions that make sense, that have business sense behind them as well. Because I think very often people will come up with an idea and they'll say, man, this is a fantastic idea, but they can't build it because they can't design it, they can't sell it, they can't support it. And at the end of the day, that idea will collapse. And that's where people like I step into the picture. We've got to try and make sense of this, let's call it fictional work slash business case, because that's all it is. I mean, at the point where you are trying to design a solution to suit or fit a certain business model, up until that point, it's all just fiction. And then you got to go figure out what the right mix of technologies are. How are people going to use this? What is their user experience that you want them to actually feel the actual experience itself? And what are they going to do? What is that emotional bond going to be? There's a very famous model called Hook's model that is very, very important in terms of designing those emotional interactions with people and technology. So how do you put all these things together, different mix and mashes of technology? And believe me, it's not one. There's a plethora of these technologies. But at the end of the day, all of that becomes invisible. All of that becomes hidden behind the user experience. What is the user experiencing? He doesn't experience technology. He experiences a job to be done. He experiences a need being fulfilled. He experiences being able to do something that he couldn't previously do. And that's what ultimately creates the stickiness with the technology, and to a very large extent determines whether the business case will succeed or not. Are people actually going to do what you want them to do with the technology? So, I mean, I can deep dive into a 3.5-hour death by PowerPoint, looking at various technology options and trying to explain how many technologies we typically use on a very simple application, but that doesn't serve the point. It's ultimately about what users want to do with this technology and how we are satisfying a business case. Because again, if you can't make this work, if you can't make it run, it has no purpose.
Fantastic. And Blue, just tell us at a very high level some of the functionality that we're looking at implementing in order to make this technology viable, and sort of what the benefits to the user and to the person on the other side would be.
Okay, so when we originally started this idea, we wanted a framework that would allow us to very, very rapidly create content, and in turn connect that content to certain activities or actions performed by users. It sounds really, really simple, do this and show that, do this and show that. So it's this A, B type model. But when we started building the technology, we realized that it's a lot more intricate than that, because now you have, we spoke about a model of vicinity, proximity, activity. So vicinity means somebody is within 2 kilometers of something of interest. How do you prompt that person when he's 2 kilometers away from something? I mean, what information do you show to that user at that particular point? How do you lure him or shepherd him towards the next layer of engagement? And the next one would then be proximity. So now I'm close to something. We would say walking distance, potentially indoors. And as we all know, indoor navigation is a very difficult thing to do. So now we are indoors, and now we want to get people even closer to that particular point. And the last thing then being activity is, okay, right, he's at the point of contact, he's at the point of engagement. How do we get him to actually engage and then show him the relevant content? And if you look at those 3 layers, if any, for example, getting people to a charity location, some charitable event is busy happening at a particular location, how do we shepherd people in from very far away and guide them towards that point? And then at the point, get them to perform certain activities for their benefit and for yours. So it sounds really, really simple when you think about it conceptually, but technically speaking, we are talking about having the ability to prompt users at the right time, know where people are at a particular point, at a particular time. And as they get closer and closer, we can refine the accuracy of that model. We can refine the content that we are delivering to those users and ultimately get them to engage. And that last point is very important, because that's the point where value is really created. At the other 2 layers, I've been guiding you towards a point. Now I need to create some real value, and that value is twofold. It's value for me as the user, as well as you as a business concern. Because at the end of the day, again, as I said, you have to have a business model that works. You have to have technology that actually satisfies that particular business model. So getting a little bit more into the technical choices, as you know, we've decided to go with mobile apps, and here we're sitting with a conundrum. There are thousands of different mobile devices. In fact, hundreds of thousands. It's not just thousands. There are various models and makes and screen sizes. There are various operating systems. I'm not just referring to iOS and Android. There are others as well. And when you're trying to build these apps, you have to try and cover all the bases here. So you firstly have to cover the maximum, let's call it the maximum availability of certain functions and features, okay? You secondly have to have an app that is small enough that it doesn't become a big hassle for people to get it onto these devices. And we've seen devices out in the field where, you know, they have a few hundred meg of space, not 64 gigs or 128 gigs like our Apple users or the Samsung users always. So you've got to have something that is really, really small, and that again limits or limits your range of choices in terms of which platforms you build these mobile apps on. Then in terms of setting these things up to be truly large scale, or as we refer to it, planet scale, you need to go for the cloud, because otherwise you're spinning up your own environments, you're spinning up your own servers, and everybody loves a blinking light, not me. So we chose to use a cloud as the back end, and obviously a specific choice of technology for mobile in the front end. And then in the middle is all that glue that you build that puts this whole business model into focus. Because again, until such time as you can actually build the business model, it is just a fantasy. So putting those three tech layers, there are more layers, I'm just going to simplify it to those three. What are you looking at the presentation layer, the UX layer? What is your backend? How are you going to run all this processing logic? And then last but not least, the piece in the middle. What is the processing logic? What are the rules? How do I decide when you are this far away, I show this, but when you are right next to something, I give you other options? How do I change all of that? How do I manage that consumer?
Phenomenal. Dana, tell us now, if we were to talk about this in terms of a user experience, what are the sort of functions that a user would expect to have from the sort of technology that we're looking at?
Jared, so I think first of all, for anybody using an app, there's got to be value in it. You know, there's got to be enough in there that brings people back to it to make sure they engage with it often. So I think the first thing we're looking at is to make sure that in this case, the ImStaying supporter gets some real benefit from engaging with the app. And I think that's a key thing for us. You know, so we want to make sure that the content on there is relevant, you know, it's up to date, and it really speaks to the interest and the love of the user, you know, what they're passionate about. Then we've got to make sure it's secure, first of all. So on the back end, we implement, of course, all the security protocols and POPI, and make sure that the information that we keep of the user and their interactions, we only use for specific business purposes and nothing else. And I think very importantly as well, it's got to be easy to use. You know, so, and as we always said, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, people, when they engage, you know, it's a very easy, simple platform to use, and the benefits are real. You know, so for instance, one of the modules, as you know, that we're really focusing on is the I'm Caring module. And that's where people will be able to, once they specifically see any stories or engagement that they're passionate about, they can then commit time, effort, or money in a very simple way to that specific cause. We assist them in setting up the dashboards and the trackers, very much similar as you would set your fitness goals as an example. You know, we can track a specific user's care goals and make sure that we help them to really reach those goals. You know, and I think that's really what we're looking for from an engagement point of view, is to make sure that the interactions are simple, they're secure, easy to use, and that the benefits are real.
Okay, fantastic. So let's say, for example, I'm a person that's in need. I mean, what sort of needs would this technology be able to fulfill from a person that has it? Say I'm homeless, or I'm a car guard, or I've got some sort of requirement, some sort of a need that I can't fulfill myself. What are some of these needs that this technology is going to be able to address?
So I think first of all, what we want to create for these typical users and for the users on the platform is to be able to engage in a safe and secure way with anybody else. You know, so, and therefore, you know, we're creating different voucher systems as an example. So one option would be, for instance, if I've built a relationship with my car guard at the shopping mall that I typically frequent, etc., I first of all can get to know a little bit about the individual. I think that's important for us. You know, we want to set up the ability to be able to, on a personal level, connect, but then also to be able to gift vouchers, etc. You know, so you can give them a voucher with regards to airtime, as an example, data, food vouchers, and all those sort of means we're going to make available on the app. You know, so apart from physically money, because it happens very often, you know, so often I stop at a shopping mall, and you know, we're in an age where we transact electronically and digitally with credit cards, etc. Very often you don't have change on you, you know. So the app will then provide the capability to be able to easily transfer digital currency or vouchers or anything else, you know, to that specific individual. And again, you'll be able to track all those transactions and make sure it happens in a very secure way.
Phenomenal. I think one of the discussions I had some time ago with a business colleague of ours was the fact that there was, you know, we've got these problems that we face in the cities across the country. And very often it's about saying, you know, somebody comes to your window, I don't necessarily want to give that person money because I don't know where that money is going. Also, we don't know what sort of politics are happening at a street level in terms of who's supposed to be there, who's not supposed to be there. There's the drugs issue pandemic that we have to consider. You know, that's been a growing problem for us over the years. It's an international issue, but, you know, specifically here in South Africa. And I think the thing that stood out for me the most is that, you know, money always fulfills certain purposes. You either use it to go and buy yourself food, or you use it to get yourself data, or you use it to get yourself into a shelter, or any one of these number of things. You know, it always requires, all it is a conduit in order to get some sort of a service back or some sort of a need back. And what I really liked about this technology is the fact that it allows us to take money and push money to one side. The money still operates, but it operates at a digital level, and it operates in the background. But it allows us really to be able to use the technology that's available to us to help people and to deliver things that people need without the use of money per se.
Absolutely, Jared. So I think quite importantly, and as per our discussions we had previously, I think what this allows us, it first of all allows the opportunity to bring the supporter and the beneficiary closer together in a very controlled environment. You know, so we can control the interactions, we can control what they do during the interaction. Like I said, you know, if you contribute vouchers, etc., we can build and set business rules of where they can spend those vouchers or what times they can spend it. You know, so a lot of those things we can control, and I think that's where we're excited to work with your team as well to really define these sort of rules and this whole ecosystem on exactly on how we want to control that beneficiary spend. And as I always say, you know, if we can draw it, you know, Blue and his team can build it. You know, and I think that's the key thing. You know, we just got to draw it in a way that it makes sense, and we're comfortable about the controls we're implementing, and it still meets the end goal of what we're trying to achieve.
So let's use a practical example. I mean, Jared, you've touched on something very specific about the non-digital aspect of money, and this is always quite an interesting thing because, you know, people have this belief that money is a physical, tangible thing. Yet, if you look in your credit card, you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of money sitting there that you don't actually have and that doesn't actually exist. And this is where this whole thing comes into play. Is firstly, we spoke about proximity, vicinity, and activity. So let's just put that into context, okay? And let's take the two role players that you guys have just highlighted now. Let's say there is somebody that is homeless, somebody that is really in desperate need of a meal, and then on the other hand, say there is somebody that is willing to purchase that meal. Okay, so first thing is you need to find a place that is willing to participate in such a venture or drive. So now we're talking about that large, big window, you know, oh, here's a particular shop that is willing to actually let me purchase a product. Let's make it real simple, a chicken pie, okay? I want to purchase a chicken pie, and I want to give that chicken pie to somebody that I have not necessarily met yet. But if I meet that person, I want to give him a meal. So you would go to one of these participating outlets and you would purchase the chicken pie. And what they would give you is a digital coupon that serves as proof of that purchase. And you walk away with your coupon. Let's say a few minutes later, you walk into the parking garage and you notice that there is a car guard there, and he definitely looks like he could use a nice warm chicken pie. You can then transfer that coupon or token from your device to his device. And in turn, he can now find the participating store, go to it, and exchange his coupon for the pie that you originally purchased 20 minutes ago. So if you look at that in end-to-end transaction, there are multiple role players in this thing. And what we've got to try to do is to facilitate the digital handover of value. And that's really what this boils down to. How do I get you as a person who wants to care, who wants to show, I've got my care, what did you call them? My care goals. I want to achieve a particular care goal. Okay, find a place that participates. How do I do that? Secondly, once I've found a place that participates, actually perform the transaction, exchange real money for a coupon, and then have that digital, that transferable product that never actually gets old and never expires. And at the right time, at the right place, be able to give that to somebody that needs it most. And that person can then do the third leg of the transaction, which is actually go and redeem that coupon for the pie that was originally purchased. So if you look at those three legs of the transaction, that's really what we are trying to facilitate. How do we get people that care to people that need care?
It's amazing how far we've come from a technological standpoint that allows us to take all of these things that have already existed and sort of mash them together to achieve something that is really of value, you know, and obviously something that's really needed at this time. Blue, another thing that another challenge that we have as #ImStaying is there is a plethora of guys that are playing in the charity space, in the NGOs, MPOs, and a whole level of different people. Each one of these guys have wanted to, they're wanting to leverage off of our platform, off of the 1.1 million members that we have. And obviously we've always battled to be able to facilitate this. How do we give everybody a fair shake? Now, one of the things that I really liked about the discussions we've had is that we've got, this app to a degree, if I'm not mistaken, will allow us to be able to create partners, right? And for people to be able to see those partners through mapping systems.
Yes, you're right. So what we will do in the system is we're actually going to create a partner or a brand, whichever you prefer to call it. They may be a bit of both. And these people essentially represent an organization or a group of people or a group of stores, if you will, that have a particular need. People can then go and purchase products, and they can either transfer the coupons for those products to this particular NGO or this brand or partner. Or on the other hand, they could actually donate real money, which gives this brand or partner the ability to actually purchase products as they think are needed. So there's two parts to it. I used the example just now of a person wanting to care and a person who needs care, and how we got something as simple as a chicken pie from one to the other. The same applies with a partner or a brand. I can say, I will purchase a bag of dog food. Some people really care. I've noticed at my local shop here, they have a big crate in the front of the shop and people can buy dog food and drop it in there. Much the same principle. We're just caring about someone or something else. But the principle still applies, is how could I do that digitally? How could I do that electronically? How could I say, Jared, here is a coupon for a bag of dog food, or that chicken pie, or 2 loaves of bread, or some canned food. And when and where that is needed, somebody else can exchange a legitimate coupon for that product. You see, the issue that we are dealing with here is not that people care and people need care. We know that's real. What we are trying to do is to facilitate the transaction in such a way that it becomes convenient for both.
Jared, I think if I can just add on to what Blue is saying, so from a system point of view, from a technology point of view, we'll make it easy for these partners or NGOs to sign up, and to register on the platform. And then from a user point of view, and we'll let the stayers also indicate what their preferences are and where their passion sits, so whether it's with animals or with old people, or children's homes, etc. We'll be able to do that mapping. And what we can also then do is, and like we said, we want to enable and make it easy for them to support specific care events. So take a simple example. If an old age home has an opportunity this weekend for somebody to come and read books or whatever for the citizens there, we'll be able to link that event to your user profile and say, you know what, there's an upcoming event this Saturday. Are you keen to contribute an hour of your time? And by the push of a button, you can commit to it, and the system will remind you of your commitments and help you facilitate that entire process to really get you to take that first step. So that whole mechanism with regard to mapping partners to your passion and what you'd like to support, all of that will enable in a very simple and streamlined fashion.
That's amazing, because everybody's got their own idea of what's important to them. Everyone's got their own idea of what's special to them, and it's very challenging at our level to be able to give all of them fair exposure. And I think this is just something that allows the people that are in need to have that exposure, and the people that want to facilitate or to assist a choice, which is really fantastic. Now, here's a spanner, guys. Here's a spanner in the works. How do we know that everybody's got access to mobile devices. In fact, there's more mobile devices than there are people. Now, what about the challenges of not everybody having access to data? I mean, surely this is going to require data. I mean, we're not talking about people that are necessarily doing the giving, but what about the guys that are receiving?
Jared, yeah, so I think that's always a challenge, and I think one of the key things we've been following for the last few months is this whole drive around data must fall. So I think, first of all, that's a challenge that's not going to be easily solved. I think Blue and I both come out of technology background, and we've worked for a lot of the operators. I think what people generally don't understand is there's an extreme amount of money that operators need to spend to be able to provide the data services to the consumers. And that's not going to go away, unfortunately. They're all companies with shareholders listed on the stock exchanges. They need to make profit as well. I think the amount of profit, is probably always up for debate. But I think one key thing that people need to understand is that, data, is not going to become free. There are, of course, free Wi-Fi's and communities being created where people can access Wi-Fi for free. But in essence, the app is still going to require data. And we're not going to get away from it. So the way we design the app and design the technology is, of course, to try and use the minimum amount of data. And I think, what we'd like to get, of course, to the point as well, is to potentially then at that point also get the operators involved to say, well, there are ways that we can actually discount the data that's used on the platform, etc. But that's going to involve, much higher level sponsorships and involvement and commitment from the operators to be able to provide that sort of services to the user base. But for the time being, we're making the assumption to say, well, data won't be for free. And that's why Blue and the team is designing the tech to be able to use the minimum amount of data possible in order to create the desired user experience.
That's amazing. So, well, listen, I mean, we know that we're faced with challenges with data. I mean, a lot of people complain about the cost of data, but they fail to understand that the cost of operating for our mobile operators in South Africa is significantly higher as well. And obviously, these are challenges that we need to overcome at a stage. But I have no doubt that the value will be there for any sort of companies that want to come on at a higher level to assist us to get this going. If you look at the value that it adds to not only the people in need, but to the country as a whole, because being able to address some of the challenges that we have, socioeconomic challenges that we have, obviously means that we get to move forward as a nation as well. So there's a lot of benefit there.
There is some light at the end of the tunnel there, Jared. I mean,
Yes,
I'm actually looking at my desk now, and I've got a very large silver device sitting right next to me on my desk. We've engaged with a company that actually has built a Wi-Fi router that they install into buses. And if you are a passenger on that bus, they are willing to give you 40 megabytes for free. And we want to take that concept a step further and say, but if we install the same device into, for example, a tavern or, a local gathering place where people get together, or even a coffee shop, etc., that we give people that first 40 megs every day for free, in exchange for a little bit of advertising information or promo information being shown to them, which I don't think is too much of a hassle at this point. And then we can try and bridge those things, because what we're talking about here is not somebody wanting to upload his last birthday video onto Facebook. That's not the kind of consumer we are looking at here. It is somebody who really just needs something. He just needs something really, really small. And if we can give him that little bit every day and provide him with the means and a third party to sponsor that, then I think there's a potential to actually do this viably, because that's ultimately what this boils down to. As Donna rightfully mentioned, the telcos want their piece of the pie. They pay for this infrastructure, and rightfully so, they deserve that. But on the other hand, there are people that are willing to pay for connectivity in exchange for people looking at their brands. And that is a very important aspect, because we can get people to look at these things in exchange for a small amount of data. And I say 40 megabytes is small, but it's more than enough to do what you need to do. And that's just the start.
So inevitably, it starts to become an ecosystem. One hand feeds the other in order to get a positive result. There's some level of reward systems in place as well, if I'm not mistaken. Those reward systems will also benefit people that help to benefit other people. Can we just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we spoke about the example just now of, myself being a carer. I want to give care, and on the other hand, somebody that needs care. And I went to a shop, I took money, I exchanged it for a coupon that essentially represents a digital pie. I load that into my phone. When I find somebody who deserves a digital pie, I can give him his digital pie, and he can then go and redeem that coupon for the original product. Now, what we've done there is simply created a wallet, and the currency in that little wallet was pi, 1 times pi. But nothing prevents us from creating a wallet called marbles, bottle tops, Smarties, peanuts, call them whatever you like. And we can then purchase these marbles and bottle tops. We can put them onto wallets, and we can transfer to other people. Here's 10 marbles for you. Here's 3 Smarties for you, and so forth. And at the end of the day, that person can then use that as a currency for whichever product and or service he wants to purchase. So that is the concept we've created. We use the example of a pie, but it could just as well have been a marble. And we are now saying, but what if we created digital marbles, and we could pass these digital marbles around? I could donate these digital marbles to one of those partners or brands who are busy collecting marbles, and they have a buyback scheme. So somebody is going to buy back a million marbles for 100,000 Rand, and all of that money goes to charity. So those kind of things now become possible. But in terms of transferring a digital pie from one person to another, or a digital marble, there's no difference. Technically, it's exactly the same process.
So Jared, I think just to add on what Blue is saying, so what we envisage through the app is that we'd like people, and we're bringing partners on board as part of this whole ecosystem, where rewards are being distributed for supporting certain brands. And it doesn't have to be just specific brands, but simple things as well. You know, if you go and refuel your car, imagine that on every liter of fuel you put into your car, you get 20 cents worth of value. And we create that, we transform that 20 cents in value into what we call on the platform as care bucks, if you want. And now it gives the user the ability that if I've refueled my car with 100 liters this month, I've got 20 care bucks basically in my wallet. And that care bucks in the system will then enable the user to decide on his own where he wants to spend that money. The only rule is he can't spend it on himself. You know, he's got to pay it forward. And the idea then is that I can then see the list of charities that sort of matches with my interests and my passions, or specific individuals. And then I can take that care bucks and pay it forward to that specific charity or specific individual to be able to spend and redeem as they see fit. And I think that's the power of creating that loyalty platform where on your everyday spend, be it groceries, be it your medical aid, be it your insurance, be it telecommunication services, you know, we want to take all that reward spend, convert it into care bucks, and then be able to then allow the user to be able to pay that money forward to where they decide and where they deem to be fit. And I think that's going to be the power of the solution, you know, to really give the individual the ability to choose themselves where they want to spend their loyalty points and on who they want to spend it on.
Exciting times ahead. There you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, we're working on some amazing stuff to bring to South Africa within the next couple of months, or depending on how long the lockdown lasts. But we really are playing in the space to try and assist. And Blue and Don, I just want to thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you'd like to close off with before we go?
Yeah, I think I maybe just want to or just say something I'm quite passionate about. You know, so we all love technology. You know, Blue and I, myself, you know, we've been in this industry for many years. But the one thing I want to just send out as a message to Mzansi is to say, guys, let's use this lockdown in a positive way to build relationships. You know, technology is an enabler; it helps us a lot. You know, but don't let technology steal quality time from you and your loved ones. You know, so use the opportunity to really connect with the people you love, connect with your family, spend time with your kids, you know, and when they come in and talk to you or chat to you, do yourself a favor, put your technology down and really focus on the individuals. You know, technology is great. It really helps us to achieve a lot of amazing things. But yeah, even though technology helps bring a lot of people together, it's also creating a lot of divide between people, you know, and let's use technology wisely. I think that's a key message. You know, it's a great tool to have, but don't let it take over your life.
That's a beautiful message to leave us with. Thank you both, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And we look forward to a nice and healthy and prosperous relationship, and to doing a lot of good for our country. I think, you know, if we pull this off, we would be trendsetters, and hopefully we can be a shining light to the world. Be blessed, take care, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks. Cheers, Blue.
Bye-bye.